Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Solano County 2021 Community Outreach Meeting. Wait a little bit longer, but in the meantime, my name is Sophia Garcia, and I'm with Redistricting Partners. I'm the GIS and Outreach Director with Redistricting Partners, the consulting team. We also have a number of Solano staff that are on the call as well. So we will have a question and answer section after the presentation. And we'll also run through the online mapping tool. And then today we will try to have a map up while people give public testimony so that we can zoom into where folks are talking about. During the Q&A portion, you could just go ahead and raise your hand on the Zoom and we'll call on you. We'll call on you when that section is up. I have my dog here, so we're presenting today. So if you hear someone, that's my pup. Okay, well, I don't want to wait too long, so I think we'll just get started. But again, welcome to it's the third Solano County Community Outreach Hearing. Again, I think we have some members of Solano County staff, as well as some of the committee members. So excited to have folks a part of this. We'll be giving a presentation first, and then we'll run through the mapping software. As part of the presentation, there is kind of a portion where you guys can unmute yourselves, and it could be a collaborative presentation, but this one is one that we have given at all of the community outreach hearings, and we will continue to give, either myself or another Redistricting Partners staff member. And we also will go through the mapping tutorial at every meeting. And today we don't have our supervisor here today, so we'll just continue and with the presentation. So we have Solano County has a 15-member committee, and they have almost three committee members that are part of every district. So we have districts 1 through 5. We also have a great team here as part of the staff with Solano County. The redistricting team, Michelle Hepner is here. She's the lead on that, the legislative, intergovernmental and public affairs officer, CAO, and more of the redistricting team. And again, as I mentioned, for Redistricting Partners, we have myself, Paul Mitchell, Chris and Kimmy, and we also have some other folks who are on the call taking notes. So we have quite a robust team here that are excited to talk about redistricting and let you all know about communities of interest and how you can get involved. Today's presentation we'll do a redistricting basics overview. There has been a longer redistricting 101 presentation that has been given to the committee that you can all look on the Solano County redistricting website. If you would like more in depth, there's also a redistricting manual. So there's more information that has been given and is online if folks want to see, because again, today we're focused more on that communities of interest piece. And we'll talk about traditional redistricting principles, go over the communities of interest, have some examples. We'll do the map tool demonstration after the presentation. We also have a section where we want to help talk through what does public testimony look like for communities of interest, to help folks think through an effective public testimony, whether that's one that they're going to give tonight, whether that's one that they're going to give to a larger committee meeting, or if they want us email or send a photo or use the map tool. And then we'll have the Q&A section. So what is redistricting? Redistricting is the process of adjusting district lines every 10 years after the release of the census. Some of the most well-known examples that folks are most aware of are with our state legislators. So we have the State Redistricting Commission, who are in charge of Congress and state legislators, but We also have your county, your city, a lot of other jurisdictions, local jurisdictions that are going through the redistricting process as well. And Solano County went through the process in 2011, and now we're in a new cycle of 2021. And redistricting beyond rebalancing districts is also about uh, moving district lines to have and empower local communities and preserve voting rights. The Redistricting Advisory Committee, as we saw those names, as a 15-member committee, and they have a couple of goals and things that they are going to do throughout this process. The big one is to help conduct community outreach hearings, and we have some folks here tonight to identify communities of interest for public input. And then once they have gone through that community outreach process, they're going to create a report of what has happened through these community outreach hearings and submit all of that information to the Board of Supervisors. Right now, we're in the phase, again, of going through the outreach hearings in May of 2021. Earlier this year, the RAC had their first meeting. Now we're in the phase, we're on July 14th, where we're going through the community outreach hearings. And at the end of September, the RAC will submit all of the community of interest and have a report to the Board of Supervisors. And that's also the time when we expect the census data to be out. So we'll transition over from gathering a lot of community testimony to then creating draft maps. And folks can always submit communities of interest throughout the entire process, but we will see a shift in our focus of getting community testimony versus then having folks comment on those draft maps. And a big deadline for everyone to remember is December 15th is when the Board of Supervisors will have to pass their final district plan. So that's a date to have on everyone's radar. So it's going to be a really condensed timeline because that census data is being released later in the year. So some traditional redistricting principles, and these principles are here to help prevent districts from becoming a gerrymander. They're also ranked criteria and are criteria that we have to follow under the new Fair Maps Act, which is a California-based law. The first concept to think about is relatively equal size. And when we're talking about size, we're discussing people, not citizens. So that's the whole portion where the census comes into play, where we're going to see where has there been growth in Solano County, where have folks moved out, where have the population shifts happened, so that we can ultimately create balanced Board of Supervisor districts. The second thing that we look at is contiguous, and this is a word that not a lot of folks come around if it's not a redistricting year, but we can think about creating, if you can create a district by not picking up your pen. So can you draw a district with one line? That's contiguous, is making sure that your districts don't hop or jump, that we can draw one based on one line. There's no islands in Solano County, but an island we can think about is Catalina Island down by Long Beach, and that would be something that would be a part of being contiguous, but doesn't necessarily, we don't have to worry about that here. The big portion is maintaining communities of interest, and this is something that we'll get into in our later slides, and is a big piece by the Fair Maps Act that we have to try to respect the boundaries of neighborhoods and try to maintain communities of interest in one or more district. Another thing that we are going to try to do and think about is following government lines. And this is another one, to the extent practicable, to try to keep cities and local government lines intact. And again, this is a ranked criteria. And the last one to think about is keeping districts compact. And again, the state has a definition to not bypass nearby neighbors for more distant populations, and that's something that we can answer more questions about on any of these. And again, there's more description on these in an earlier presentation or in that redistricting manual. But let's get into communities of interest and helping people think through how they're going to give testimony, how we're going to listen to folks. And communities of interest is also a term that is something that doesn't come up very often outside of a redistricting year, but it really is trying to ask and listen to how you interact with the Solano County, how you interact with your area, the recreational places, your roads, your cities. How are you interacting with the place and your board of supervisors? So communities of interest are the building blocks of districts. They can include ethnic and language minorities and other groups. And it's also important to remember that because we're talking about people's personal stories and how we each interact with our surroundings, it's important to remain open-minded and remember that communities of interest could be subjective. We want to have an open mind and try to listen to our fellow folks in the county and try to listen how we all interact, because we know we have different interests and interact differently. Something to note as well is that we have the Voting Rights Act, which covers Latinos, Asians, African Americans, other ethnic groups. However, we cannot have that race be a predominant factor when drawing districts unless there's a federal Voting Rights Act comes into play. And we'll lean on our attorney for that if that becomes the case. But as of right now, that can't be the predominant factor when we're drawing communities of interest. There's so many different communities of interest that can come out of this process. We have historical communities, we have cultural communities, specific neighborhoods, it could be tourism areas. And so there's just such a wide range of ways that people can come forward and give their testimony. There's also things that we have to remember that are not considered communities of interest, specifically under that new law, the Fair Maps Act. And the Fair Maps Act, or AB 849, if folks want to bring up the bill and read it themselves, it explicitly prohibits political party affiliation, incumbents, or political candidates from being considered as a community of interest. And it's also another thing to note is that it can be difficult to draw or have a community of interest of groups who are of similar minded people but don't share a geographic location. So we also want to remember that it is, at the end of the day, we want to draw final map plans, and we want to try to maintain communities of interest in one or two districts. So if there is folks who are spread out throughout the county, that makes it difficult to have a compact community of interest. So that can be something that you can definitely give testimony on, but just know that it will be difficult for the board to consider when they're drawing their final map plans. So some other things to think through as you're sort of thinking through your testimony, and as we help you think about how you relate to your community, are these three kind of questions or different aspects. You can think of them as check boxes if you want. The first one is, does your community have a shared culture, characteristic, or bond? So is there a common interest that bonds you with your entire community? Is the community geographic in nature? Again, we're talking about mapping. Can it be mapped? And the third is to describe your community's relationship with the jurisdiction. So how is your specific community affected by policy decisions that are made, in this case by the Board of Supervisors? So we have some exercises here, and folks can unmute yourself or nod your head. If you don't feel comfortable, that's okay as well. But these are some exercises that we want to sort of think through those three kind of aspects that were on the previous slide. So the first kind of exercise is a group of renters who live downtown testifies to So the city's redistricting commission. Would this be considered a community of interest? And we'll switch city to county. So a group of renters who live in downtown testify to the Solano County Commission. Do you think this should be considered as a community of interest? What do you guys think? I know we have some folks who've been on the call before. Well, as everyone thinks through that, the answer is yes. This is a group of residents who can easily be mapped. It's in a distinct area, so they live in downtown, they're all renters, and they share a common policy interest, which can be addressed through legislation or public services. So renters are pretty different from homeowners and have different interests at the policy level. So the second sort of thought question is a historically recognized town dating back to the late 1800s, but they now have a minimal population, but are still within the boundaries of the county. Should the county consider or prioritize this historical town when they're drawing their maps? So it's a historically recognized town or area, but they have had a shrinking population for a while now. Should this be, or could this be considered a community of interest? We have a thumbs up. Yeah, so if we kind of think through that first slide that had that huge list, historical towns and communities were listed there, and this can be recognized as a community of interest and can be considered. They have a shared common bond. It can be mapped, and this historical area could have a tie to the county or could have a policy interest, even though they're smaller. So this other one is getting a little trickier. A group of dog owners who live in the suburbs band together to push their local elected officials to put in a dog water fountain in the dog park. So could a group of dog owners who use a dog park and have an interest, should they or can they be considered as a community of interest? It's a little different from homeowners or historical towns. Okay, we see another.
Do they live in a concentrated area, or are they all over a city?
This says that they go to a specific dog park. So I think they probably live around maybe like 20 minutes from a specific dog park. So probably more concentrated. That's a good question though. In this hypothetical scenario. So let's say that they do live in one area and go to one dog park, then they can definitely be considered as a community of interest because they share a geographic location. This is one that is a personal one that I used to go to a dog park that is very close to my house. And for the longest time, there wasn't a water fountain at our park. And if you have any dog owners or lovers out there and it's hot, then it's really crucial to have water. But that's a great question. Let's say it was just generic dog owners across the county, then that wouldn't necessarily be a community of interest. But because the way this testimony is worded, they're banding around one dog park. So because of that, it can be considered a community of interest. So that's a great point. Here's another one that may need further questions, but a statewide group of people who are fans of the Giants testify to the local commission. Is this a community of interest? Could folks who are fans of the Giants, does that make sense for them to come and testify to Solano County?
No.
No, we got a no. That no is right. It can be a community of interest, maybe like at a statewide level, but it's important that a community of interest is distinct enough to draw on a map this group overlaps with the entire state, or it could be multiple states, depending how many giant fans are. And it's unlikely that a specific governing agency has any related issues over this. So, like the the dog park example, if there was maybe a group of folks who had a tie recreationally to a specific park in Solano, or there was like a recreation league in the area, and they wanted to band together for a specific reason, then that could be considered as a community of interest. But because this one is statewide, it just doesn't fully make sense for the context of Solano County. So I hope that kind of helps you sort of think through some of those questions and some of those aspects. And there's multiple ways that folks can submit testimony, can get their testimony as part of the report that the RAC will be sending to the board. There is an online community of interest form that is on the Solano redistricting website. The Solano website is fantastic. The staff did a wonderful job. There's a lot of great information there. And when folks start going in person, I know they'll start having some Saturday outreach meetings in person. There'll be paper forms there for folks to fill out. There's also, at the end of this, we'll do the District R demonstration where folks can submit maps online. So right now we're in the phase of gathering the community of interest testimony. And once we get that census data, once it's released and once it's uploaded on the software, then that District R will transition from being primarily used as a community of interest testimony tool to then be using as a district plan based tool. As I said earlier, folks can submit communities of interest throughout the process, but at the moment, the districtor is really being used for that community of interest testimony mapping, and then it will transition to a district-based mapping, and then we can show you that difference. If you want to play around right now and you just can't wait, you can go to the districtor.org/California. We're working on getting the Solano specific site, but right now folks can log on to that and can still use it. That one's up and ready statewide. We'll also, when we go in person, be having what are called placemats. Our boss calls them placemats because in 2011, his daughter used to eat dinner off of them because they're laminated. So they'll be like an 8 by 11 piece of paper with a map of Solano County, and we will put estimated populations of neighborhoods and census geography on the map so that folks can round up and create district plans and communities of interest testimony on that map. There'll be some information on there, and again, they'll be laminated so people can draw on them and take a picture, and we'll get that from you all, or you can turn in your map, but we found that a lot of people want to keep them themselves. So that'll be another way that folks can give their testimony. And we're, like I said, we're on 3rd of 10, so there's a lot more ways that the community can come out. We hope to continue to see folks coming out to district meetings so that the RAC has a really wonderful and hopefully lengthy report to give to the board. So this is our evening meetings, and we will have some meetings on Saturdays that are projected to be in person, and Michelle is here to answer more of those questions after the presentation if folks have questions on the in-person meetings. And here is the Solano County website, and that's the end of this presentation. And I could go to some questions, or I could jump to the districtor tool if folks want. Okay, I think I stopped sharing.
Can you show that website again real quick, please?
Yes, yeah. Go back. I will share this. Share. And okay. Back. So it's redistricting.solanocounty.com. And that site will be maintained for 10 years. So all of these, every presentation, every communities of interest received, all of the agendas, materials will be up on that Solano website. They have a tab that has the existing boundaries that people can interact with, and materials and information for past meetings and some of our future meetings. So that should be up there.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Okay, are there any questions out there right now? Or I can move to the district tool.
Hello.
Hi, Deborah.
Hi. I'm sorry, I'm kind of late getting into the meeting, but what is the purpose of the redistricting and when will it take place?
Yeah, so the redistricting happens every 10 years by most jurisdictions. And we do it every 10 years because of the release of the census. Redistricting is about rebalancing populations to have more representative districts and try to make sure that all the districts of Solano County Board of Supervisors are within, we say, a 10% total deviation. So making sure that each district isn't too big or too small in population from one another. And we are in the process, going through the redistricting process right now. Mm-hmm. But because we don't have the official census data, we are not allowed to draw any draft maps. There is some estimated data out there, but the county is not allowed to draw draft maps until we get the official census data. So right now, the Redistricting Advisory Committee is working to get public testimony specifically about communities of interest, and that there's a lot of ways that folks can tell us about your community, so that the Redistricting Commission, Redistricting Advisory Commission, will then give a report to the Board of Supervisors, and the Board of Supervisors will be the ones who are directing us how they want their draft maps to be drawn. And if you were late, our next meeting specifically about outreach, will we be giving this presentation again, is July 21st. That's okay. Specifically for District 5, and that is an evening meeting from 6 to 8 as well. And all of the other meetings should be up on the website if you'd like to see that presentation. So I hope that answers your question.
Thank you.
Can I just jump in here quick? So I just want to let everyone know, even though the meetings are scheduled for specific districts, anyone in the community that lives in Solano County can participate in the meetings, because we do recognize that not everyone may be available on the nights that we have specific districts. So we're happy to take your input at any time and at any of the meetings. So please feel free to dial in at any of the next meetings if you're still unclear, or if you have more questions from us.
Thank you.
I have a question.
Okay, I see someone on the phone. Go ahead.
I actually have two questions. So regarding those Saturday meetings, I just heard they're in person. So is each one going to be within the boundaries of the district that it is indicated, or are they all just going to be at some central location like in Fairfield? And then my second question was, I wanted to get some clarification on the dog park example and how that's a community of interest. So let's say there's a dog park in Fairfield, and that's the only one in the county. And then there's people throughout the county who would like to get more dog parks closer to where they are. So would they all be considered a community of interest, or would that not be the case because they aren't really in a certain area? They are kind of spread throughout the county, but at the same time, they are all interested in kind of the same sort of thing.
I'll let Michelle answer your first question about the in-person meetings, and then I'll touch on the dog park.
Okay, certainly. So, so the way we've scheduled the in-person meetings, we have tried to get facilities that are within the districts, but they are also in main centers. So, for instance, we will have one for District 1 in Vallejo, and then for District 2, we'll probably do in Cordelia. But anyone that is in District 2 that lives in Vallejo can certainly attend the District 1 meeting because it's closer for them. So we've tried to make them as close as possible to main centers or as reachable across the districts as possible.
Okay, I'll take a stab at your dog park question. So again, we have those 3 questions about the common nature, can it be mapped, and then the relationship to the jurisdiction. If there is a county-wide group of dog park people, then that is more difficult to map because we're trying to focus specifically on drawing 5 different districts. But if there are like people in around a specific community who you've maybe highlighted a specific park or area of the county that has a vacant lot, and you guys want to like rally around that specific point, then that could be more of a community of interest that you can submit. But again, the kind of countywide or statewide stuff is more difficult for the board to consider when they're drawing their final map. So I would just urge folks who have a countywide interest to maybe you can submit multiple communities of interest. They could be pockets or hotspots around the entire county. And then you could focus on specific compact communities across the county. Does that help you sort of think through that? Caller. You're still muted. I don't know if you, okay.
Oh, sorry about that. So basically, you would recommend that this larger group of people kind of break up into smaller geographical areas as far as the community of interest thing is concerned.
Right. Yeah. To sort of like
okay.
think through that third question of, okay, we say we're countywide, but really are there concentrations of folks in specific areas? Because then that is something that can help the board really consider, because then maybe it's not an at-large county, so there isn't going to be one big
sure.
district, but maybe you can all be concentrated in one district or multiple districts, or if you kind of had hotspots in 5 areas, then you can also try to advocate to maybe be kept in your 5 areas. So then when the new lines are drawn, then that community can rally together to your supervisor for a new park or for more facilities for an existing park. But that's a really great question.
Okay, good to know.
Yeah, thank you. Are there any other questions out there? I don't see any hands raised or people unmuting. No, okay. Then I'm going to move over to the mapping demonstration. Let me pull that up. Okay, great. So this is Districtor or District R. There's a little bit of a debate on how you pronounce it, but this is the mapping tool that the Solano County is using. And again, we're working on getting the Solano County specific website up. The other thing to note is that, as I said in the presentation, there's a way that we can use this to draw districts or draw communities of interest. And we're not, because we don't have that census data yet, we're not in the draw districts phase. So we're going to go to the draw communities phase. And again, because we don't have the specific county up, we're going to go to statewide, click on this big red button. And then it's going to take us statewide, as it said. And we're going to use, as we see, the hand tool to move our map over and then zoom in to Solano County area. So we'll just stay right here. And there's a couple of buttons of note. So we have the hand draw tool, and then we have, which allows us to move the map, to zoom in, to zoom out. We have the brush stroke tool, and here is where we can start painting our communities of interest, and then in September to draw our districts. And we can create and have our brush be really huge at 100, or we can make it smaller to try to grab less blocks. So we're just going to grab a couple of blocks for purpose of demonstration. And once you click on a specific area, you say, this is a community of interest I want the committee and the board to have of note. And then you can go ahead and name that. So we're talking about dogs today. You can name it and then add more description to it. And as we know, we have different facets of who we are. We have different communities, family, for work, for recreation. And so you can add as many communities of interest as you want by just clicking this plus button here. And then it's the same thing where you now have a drop-down menu. You can pick your new community and name it, and then go through and add more description. There's also a place where you to add a specific point. So if there's a specific park or a specific school or whatever kind of place that you want, then you can mark that specific point and do the same as you would with the geography. So go name it, add description. You can add another one if you'd like, and have that drop down. If you decide, actually, I don't want this portion in my community, then you can erase it. The data layers and the evaluation buttons have more information on ethnicity, race, on voting age. These ones are here, and you feel free to go ahead and look at that. But we find that they are more helpful when folks are actually drawing districts, because then you're able to see the racial makeup and sort of try to make sure that your district is within the ideal population that you need for the county. They're there, you can look at them, but not necessary when drawing your community of interest. In order to have the redistricting, the RAC look at your community plan, because we don't have the Solano specific up one right now, you'll click on the save button, and the best thing to do is copy this URL, and you can email that. You can add that into the survey form online, or you write it down and share it. And then once you copy the URL, it'll take you directly to what you just drew. So again, it'll start off with the statewide, but as we zoom in, you'll be able to see the specific communities of interest that we just drew. I think it's loading a little bit. There we go. So, but if we load that, and you'll have your unique community of interest map there. And once we have the Solano specific one up, then you could just tag that. But right now, the best bet is just save your URL and then share it with us. And that's the tool. Are there any questions on this? Again, we go through the tool at every meeting, and we'll continue to do so for our virtual meetings. Okay, I see a hand raised. Someone named Galaxy S9. You can.
Yes. Do you know when the Solano County one will be available?
I don't have, I don't know specifically, but we're hoping by the end of the month to do that. Yeah, I can try to get a more specific date for you.
Actually, Sophia, Kimi let me know that it would be up by no later than June 20th.
Oh, great.
Sorry, July 20th.
Okay. Perfect. Even better. Okay. Cool. Do we have any other questions? And again, there's a lot of ample opportunity to give testimony, whether tonight, whether you're emailing, whether you're looking through the Solano website or submitting a form, or we'll see you on a Saturday in person.
I have a question.
Yes, go ahead. SA.
Sandy. I'm wondering if this is the proper place to add in about community, what is it called? Quality Neighborhoods program.
About what? I'm sorry? About
the Quality Neighborhoods program that was trying to take care of some old blighted neighborhoods some time ago. If this would be the place to readdress that.
So I'll answer that, Sophia. So this is Michelle Hapner. So no, this is not the place to address that.
Okay.
So yeah, so you know, if you'd like, you can leave me your phone number, and I can certainly get you to someone that may be able to help you.
Okay.
So do you want to leave me your phone number now, or would you like to just email me? You can email me at redistricting@solanocounty.com.
At SolanoCounty. What?
.com.
Com. Okay, will do.
All right, thanks.
Thank you.
do you have anyone else who has questions or comments or would like to talk about their community of interest?
So Sophia, maybe while people are thinking about this, we can show them where they can go on the website to submit their forms.
Absolutely. Let me pull that up. If you Google Solano County redistricting, it's the first thing that shows up, which is fantastic. And if we, and Michelle, can you remind me how to get to the form? I know you walked me through it last time.
Yeah, sure. So under the Get Involved tab at the top, there are icons. And so the last one on the right is the Community of Interest form. And this actually, the way the form is structured, it helps people to think through what their community of interest might be. So it's actually a good way to think it through a little bit. So I would encourage you, if you are planning to submit something, to try and do it through this form. There is also a downloadable version that we can make available if you'd like to send us paper. But and we can also mail out paper if you need it. You can just let me know. But this form will talk you through the process and help you understand, and also it makes it easy for us to capture because it's in your own words. And then also on the, if you go back, Sophie, there is another button. If you just hit the back button.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. So there's another button next to this icon. Yeah, so the one that says Community of Interest Submissions, those are submissions that we've already received so far. So you can scroll down and read what other people have written, and get a sense of what people are finding important, so that you can help you think through what you might want to submit.
And we had 2 callers today that had questions about dog parks or neighborhood communities. So those are things that if those callers wanted to go through this form and answer the questions, they might see that they may want to submit comments specifically about those 2 communities that they mentioned. So it's great to see folks submitting stuff. And it's a very intuitive website here that Solano has put up. Okay. Well, I just want to remind everyone, I don't see any hands raised or people unmuting themselves, but I just want to remind folks that the next meeting will happen on July 21st. And it is open to everyone, but we have it here listed as folks from District 5. But again, we welcome everyone to join, and that meeting will be virtual. And again, starting at 6 p.m. And then there will be some in-person meetings starting on Saturday. And I believe the first in-person one is that one July 31st, right?
Correct.
Okay. And I don't have the specific location in front of me, but that I think we have the time as 9 a.m. starting July 31st on a Saturday. So folks can.
So correct. We will be putting up the locations. We're trying to finalize one more location. Once I have all of those up, I will put a press release out so everyone receives that information. It will also be posted on the website. And if you are subscribed to receive news and information from the redistricting, it will automatically get sent to you, and then it will be automatically put onto each meeting notice. So when you go to the meetings through the website, you'll be able to find the address.
I see Galaxy S9 has their hand raised. So go ahead, you can unmute yourself.
Yeah, so on that website where you have the community of interest submissions, is that where I would kind of get an idea if like trying to figure out if I'm a specific community of interest, like if there is a specific point in my geographic area that I want to kind of rally around? Is that how I would figure out if I'm a community of interest?
So you don't need any census data to submit a community of interest. They're just kind of the questions that were on the presentation, and those that are here on the website are things to just help you sort of think through what are ways that you like interact with your environment, and what are some communities that you're a part of that you want to be addressed and want to be kept in one or more districts when the board is drawing maps. So I do encourage you to sort of think through these questions, and you can look at the presentation again for communities of interest that you would like to submit. And again, it's a term that I think could be a little confusing, but it's really asking, you are expert of your community. How do you interact with your community? And if there are things that you would like to see improved, or things that you think you would benefit from being in one specific voting block or one specific district when we have those final maps in December.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, so I can't tell you what folks' communities are or what your communities of interest are. We're just here to help sort of help you think through giving effective testimony that can be used when we go to the drawing map phase.
Okay.
I see another hand raised. Marion, I think.
Yeah, hi. Two
Hey.
questions. One is, so you can have more than one community of interest, correct?
Absolutely, absolutely.
Okay. And two was, Michelle just jogged my mind. I got one of those mailers that has the QR code to scan to subscribe, and she said something about subscribing. I was wondering what I would be subscribing to.
Okay, hi Marian. So yes, so on the web page, the landing page, you will see down below there's like a news feed, and so anything that we publish that we want people to know about what's going on with the redistricting project, if you subscribe to the redistricting project, that's the information you'll be receiving. However, if you don't want to subscribe, you can go to the website every day and see what news we've put out. Either way will work. You'll be able to get the information that's of what we're doing.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
I see Sean has his hand raised. Okay.
Hi, this is Sean. I'm one of the members of the Redistricting Advisory Committee, and I just wanted to mention just a couple quick things, but mostly to stress the importance of submitting the comments, because that's kind of the foundation of what's going to be compiled into the report to be presented to the Board of Supervisors. So definitely appreciate as much input as possible on that. And, you know, just a kind of a practical example, since this is a District 4 meeting, you know, the district is essentially all of Dixon and, you know, part of Vacaville and then some unincorporated areas. So just kind of posing a question is, you know, there's a lot of different communities of interest, but, you know, I guess a few basic questions would be, you know, do we like that Dixon all is in one district, or do we like that we have unincorporated in those portions of Vacaville? You know, is there other portions of Vacaville that you think might be a better community interest, or, you know, is it fine as is? I think a lot of people are going to have, you know, some different answers, but I think those are kind of some fundamental questions that I think could help as far as to present something that's going to be able to be submitted into a way that the Board of Supervisors would be able to take action on that. I think that there's going to be some very narrow examples, but I think there are some very broad examples as well. So I just wanted to bring that up for the group.
Yeah, Sean, thank you. That's really helpful to sort of think through what communities have been split, and if there's ones that you want to see kept together. That's kind of testimony that, like Sean said, the committee is looking for and would be helpful for them. So thank you for that comment. Okay, I don't see any more hands raised or people unmuting themselves. No, yeah, okay. So I want to thank everyone for their time. I know being on virtual stuff and on evenings, it means a lot that everyone is here. So thank you again for coming. And again, just as another reminder, the next meeting will happen July 21st at 6 p.m. And then the first in-person meeting will be July 31st at 9 a.m. And look out for Michelle's email and blast about more information specifically on the in-person stuff. So we've heard already people on this call who are getting that information in email, so that's fantastic.